Alright everyone, welcome back to the class. I hope everyone had a really good break. Everyone's looking refreshed, rejuvenated, ready to crush this class. Alright, so as we said before, we were working with Power BI, which is just like Excel except it is on steroids. So, real quickly, I want to show you how you would download Power BI onto your personal computer because maybe you've been putting off a project and now you gotta real quickly make it at home. It's okay, we've all done it. So what you want to do in this situation is you want to come all the way down here to the bottom left, and on the search engine you're going to type in Microsoft Store. It should populate very quickly. What you're going to do is you're going to open that up. Once it loads in, we're going to go all the way to the top and we're going to type in Power BI. We're going to hit enter. After a few seconds it should load up. Now as you can see, there are two different options. You got Power BI Desktop and Power BI Report Builder. For what we're doing today, we are going to want Power BI Desktop. We will be using Power BI Report Builder in other courses, but for this one, we're using Desktop. We're going to go on this web page, and right there for me, it says open, but for you, it may say install. What you would want to do, go ahead and click it, let it install. Now, depending on your machine, it may take 5 minutes, it might take 3 hours, but once you're there, you can go ahead and click open, and it should populate in like a few seconds. Alright, and once it's there, we can start getting into work, but now we need a report to build. So let's just say that you're going into work, everything's going good, but then your boss, he rushes in, he's like unnerved, you're like, what's happening? And he's like, can barely get it out. He's like, hey, I want to build a bank. I think it'll take our corporation straight to the moon. I think it'll make us #1 in the world. I need you to help figuring out where it's gonna go. And then before he can even say, wait, what? We're a pharmaceutical company. He's already out the door. And now we need to make a bank. And it could be like me, who who knows absolutely nothing about banks. Or maybe you do have the information and we can use that to help us guide where we're going to build it. But what we would need to do is a good place to start is where do banks fail? What state has the most failing banks? Because then we can use that data and kind of guide our hands to where we don't want our bank. So now we have Power BI opened. We need to go ahead and get some data. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up Google Chrome. You can use Microsoft Edge, but we're gonna use Google Chrome. Google Chrome is superior. What we're gonna do is go to the top of the engine and we're gonna search up data.gov. Enter. Now data.gov is a wonderful resource. It's filled with all kinds of data sets. If you can think of it, it's probably in here. There's even in this data set a chart showing the declining sales of margarine. So if you can imagine it, it's probably in here. Now, I would love to spend the rest of this class talking about margarine, but unfortunately, I do need to get on with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to come to this search engine right here, and we're going to type in FDIC failed banks. Okay, and then we hit enter. It's going to take us to a bunch of data sets, and look at that, cherry picked right for us. FDIC failed bank list. We click on this one. It's going to take us to a new web page. We're going to go straight to the download button because we know what we're after. We're going to click the download button, and strangely enough, it's going to take us to a web page and not download anything. I know, I'm just as confused as you are. But as you can see here, we have all this wonderful data, and we're going to take one nice long gander at this data and scroll right past it, right down to download data CSV. Now in this particular situation, what you're going to want to do is right click it and hit copy link address. Now you could just go ahead and left click it if you wanted to and have it download to your computer, but for what we're doing, it's actually easier to once again right click, copy link address, and then head right back into Power BI. Now, of course, we got the data. We need to get our report going. So how do we do that? We got too many options here. We got so many options here. We got OneLake, Excel, SQL. Well, we could do some more complicated routes, but for what we're doing today, let's just keep it nice. Let's just keep it simple. We're going to use blank report. We're going to open that up, and it gives us this beautiful blank white canvas for us to paint all of our data over. Now then, we have Power BI, we have data. How do we get the two to meet in the middle? Well, what did you know? Power BI already thought of this. What we're going to do is come to the top left corner, hit Get Data. It's going to give us a little drop-down menu, and we're going to take it all the way down until we see Web. And click on that one. Now, why are we using Web? Well, it's because we got our data from a website. So therefore, we're using the Web feature. And once we're here, sorry, we are going to right-click and paste the data in. Now, if you want to be extra fancy, you could use Control-V, but however you get the URL in there, once it's in, you can go ahead and hit OK. In a few minutes, it should load right in. And depending if you've done this before, it may ask you, are you sure you want to get information from this website? Just go ahead and click yes or OK. And then it'll give us this lovely set of data. But as you might see, it doesn't look the cleanest. And for maybe you or I, it really wouldn't bother us that much. But your boss, he's a very visual learner. He's a very visual man. So he's going to look at this data, and the only thing he's going to see are these weird little symbols, these diamond question marks, and he's not going to listen to a word you're saying. So we need to rectify this. How do we do this? So what we do is we go to File Origin, click on this little box, scroll all the way down until Western European Windows, go ahead and click right onto it, and look at that. Already this data looks so much better. We got bank name, we got city, and we got all the columns, nice, neat, and it's even, would you look at that, written in Times New Roman. In my opinion, the best looking font. I will not be receiving questions on that matter. Anything else? Perfect. Best font? No. Times New Roman, end of discussion. But I digress. So now that we have all this data, you might notice that we have maybe a little too much data. As we said, we need to know where banks are failing the most so we can avoid those areas. So we don't really need to know who bought those banks, what the cert number is, or even what the fund number is back here. All we need to know is where are these banks failing. So how do we transform this data into something that's more workable for us, something with all the clutter gone? Well, once again, Power BI thought of that, and they gave us a lovely button called Transform Data, which allows us to manipulate the data in any way we need to make it the best workable set for our needs. And once again, you have all these beautiful columns lined right up. We can go ahead and manipulate them how we need to manipulate them. And as you may see right here on the right side is a section called Applied Steps. I want to go over this really quickly. So Applied Steps is a wonderful tool that catalogs every single change you make to the data. So say you're on step 50, but you made a mistake at step 30. Well, with Applied Steps, you can easily go back to that step, make any other changes, or even get rid of that change entirely. It makes it real easy to go back and correct any mistakes we make. And as a human, I make quite a lot of them. And you can even see it too. In the Applied Steps, we change the type of the formatting. So with that being said, let's add some more steps to this list. So what we want to do is we want to get rid of these columns that we don't need. As said before, we don't need find, we don't need closing date, we don't need these columns. So how do we get rid of these columns? Well, there's a function right here at the top in the middle. It might take you a second to find it. It's called Choose Columns. Once you find that, go ahead and click it. It's going to give you an option. It's going to ask you once again, do you want to choose columns or do you want to go to columns? We're going to want to choose columns. And just in case it asks you for a third time, we are choosing columns. But once all that is done, it gives you a beautiful list of all the columns that we have selected, and we can go ahead and unselect the ones we don't want. So we're going to go ahead and unselect funds, closing dates, a certain number, and typically in this situation, I would uncheck acquiring institution, but I'm going to leave a check so I can show you something later down the line. We're going to hit OK, and look at that. All those unneeded columns disappeared forever. Don't need them, don't want them, don't need to think about them. So the data is already looking so much nicer, so much cleaner. We have so much wonderful information. But with this data as is, we're going to run into another problem. Say we're giving a presentation to our boss and he's like, well, what about Springfield? Well, what about Springfield? Are we talking about Springfield, Illinois, Springfield, New York, Springfield from The Simpsons? We need to be able to figure out which Springfield for which state. So for this situation, we would want a column that gives us both the city and the state. With the combination, that way we can better easily discern which ones we're talking about. So to add a column, we're going to go all the way top of the search, and right past home transform, right there is add column. We click on this one, and in the very first section down below it, we're going to hit column from examples, and we're going to select from all columns. This allows us to merge data from every column we have in our data set. Now, on the far right, it gives us a beautiful blank column for us to work with. What we're going to do is click the very first row right under column 1, or the second row if you prefer. And we're going to go ahead and type in the city and the state. As we said before, we need a way to kind of discern the two. So now we need a city and a state. Well, I see Chicago and Illinois at the very first list. So let's type in Chicago, Illinois, and see what it does. Once you do that, you can hit enter, and look at that. It populated every city with its respective state down the list. Chicago, we got Chicago, Lindsay, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My mistake, I read this a little too quickly at times. But as you can see, it gave us the information we needed. And we can go ahead and hit OK, and we'll add the data in. But you might have noticed that this name merge doesn't really fit with the rest of the data set. And say if your boss were to walk in right now and ask for the presentation, he's not going to be able to follow along with you because all he can see is that line right there, merged. And he's not going to listen to a word we say. So to make it easier on ourselves and for our boss, if in case he just walks in on us any second, we're going to double click that and rename it to city state. I'm going to keep it real nice and simple. Just name it what it does. It describes city and state, so it's called city and state. And you know what? While we're just over here naming stuff, let's go to the far left where the whole data set is called download data. I'm going to go ahead and double click that. And from there, we can name this data set failed banks because, of course, we're working with failed banks. Now, you could theoretically name it after heavy metal bands that you like, but in recent years, it's gotten me in some trouble with my bosses, so we're just going to keep it at failed banks. And with that said, all of our data is done. We got to set up the way we want it set up. So now we can go ahead and apply it to Power BI. So how do we do that? Well, we go back to the home setting. We go to close and apply. It's going to ask us again. We're going to hit close and apply. And just in case it asks you a third time, you're going to hit close and apply. After a few seconds, it should load in, and you'll see it populate right here under the data section on the far right. Look at that, queued right in, right as I'm talking about it. It's almost like it knew. And once you hit the drop down, you can see all the columns. You can see the columns we took away aren't there, and the columns that we added are there. See, city, state, right there, right where it should be. And once you look over to the left, you see we have all these beautiful visualizations that we can use to display the data for our boss. As we said, he's a very visual man, so we need the best visual way to show the data. And for you, depending on the data you're working with, this would be the perfect time for you to fiddle around to see what chart gives you the best way to view the data. Like for example, we could use the pie chart, and it would display the data, but it would look very wrong. It would look a little disorganized and kind of hard to parse the information. So what we could do instead is just use right here, this horizontal bar chart. We can click on that one, and it'll populate a bar chart over here on the left top corner. And as you can see under here, it gives you some the functions of the bar chart, the y-axis, the x-axis, it even has a legend. And as much as I would love to explain to you every which way we can use the legend, unfortunately, I just don't have the information with this data set to do that. So, unfortunately for us, we got to keep it at the y and x axis. So now we gotta get the information on the data to the X and Y axis. Well, how do we do that? Well, and if we were working in Excel, we would have to write at least 6 quadratic formulas, and maybe it will work, but usually not really. But in Power BI, all you gotta do, take the data we want. So for the y-axis, we're gonna want the state. We click on state, we hold it, and we drag it over to the y-axis. And we're just gonna do the same exact thing for the bank name. Bank name, click, hold, drag it down to the x-axis, and look at this. We have a beautiful looking chart already. We're gonna go down to, we're gonna go down to the bottom right corner, until our mouse cursor changes what it looks like. We're gonna click, hold, and drag it until we have a shape we like. And now we have a beautiful graph that's big, easy to see, easy to work with. And would you look at that, Georgia is number 1, so right off the bat we can eliminate Georgia from building a bank. And when did you look at it? We got Florida number 2, represent. And with the way ViStar has been treating me lately, maybe, just maybe, we can hit number 1 too. Now, I think that was a lot of information to process very quickly. So I think we should take another 5-minute break to get ourselves refreshed, recharged. I know I'm gonna hit up the vending machine for some caffeine, and then we can come back even stronger, even more ready to finish the rest of this class. All right, everyone, enjoy your break. I will see you in a few minutes.